It's crazy how just having my camera in a different spot makes everything feel so strange. Hi everyone, if you're new here, my name is Sally and I'm a mixed media artist in Australia. And if you're not new here, welcome back. I think I've settled on my setup. I just have to get used to the visuals being a little bit different and my camera being in a different spot, and the cat's new cat tree right next to me here and them messing around on it while I'm filming. Evie. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Zorn palette. This is something very new to me. I've heard a lot about it over the years, but I've never actually tried it. Scratch that. I did actually try it. And I did paint this portrait of Charlie XCX and I lost all the footage. So this was my first painting that I did with the Zorn palette. And the painting that we're doing today is the second painting that I'm doing with the Zorn palette. So let's go. The Zorn palette consists of 4 colours: cadmium red light, or vermilion, yellow ochre, titanium white, and ivory black. It's a palette that works not just for oil paints, but acrylic, which is what I'm using here, gouache, and watercolor as well. It's a limited color palette, but extremely versatile and well suited specifically to portraits. It's a desaturated palette, with vermilion being the most vivid color. Now, this isn't going to be a super in-depth breakdown of every shade you can make with these 4 colors. I'm more disorganized than that. But I will link some videos down below if you'd like to check out a more comprehensive color mixing tutorial. This video is just me mixing colors, painting, and vibes. Now, I'm not using any kind of fancy acrylics. I picked up the Marte acrylics cheap. There's a discount store near me that's moving locations and they had a sale on, so I just picked them up there. I knew I wanted to do this Zorn palette video and test it out and try it because I hadn't tried it before. So I actually didn't have a black because I don't actually use black when I'm painting. I use a Payne's grey. So I had to go pick up a black, and the only black that they had was a lamp black. And the Zorn palette is specifically uses an ivory black, which is a cooler black than the lamp black. So the white and the black in the Zorn palette are used to change the values. So you have a lot of flexibility with both light and deep shades. Though the palette is very warm and there is no blue, ivory black is a cool black and is the least opaque of all the blacks. So when you place it against the warm tones of the red and the yellow, it will appear quite blue in contrast. So that's like the magic of this palette. I didn't have access to an ivory black, so I purchased the lamp black in its place. And I would like to experiment with a true ivory black and play around with the coolness of that shade within the full Zorn palette. But I still was able to mix up, as you can see here, like some khaki kind of greens with the lamp black and the yellow ochre. It's really interesting when you start mixing things around. So it's truly the perfect palette for portraits, with the ability to create a wide range of colors perfect for skin tones, though it's not a really great palette for landscapes just because you don't have like true blues and greens within the mix. You can, however, create these lovely muted greens, mixing your yellow ochre with the black. And when you mix the white in it, you get these nice sort of soft khaki tones. And you can see how with the red and the black, you can get almost like a purpley kind of maroon shade. So there's quite a lot of colors that you can actually get from these 4 shades. And Echo's got to come in and make her presence known as usual. So this little canvas here, I'd actually had a commission, so it's got a little under sketch in it, and I noticed that one of the staples was poking through. So I didn't use it for the commission, and I thought I would use it for this painting here. Now, my initial Zorn palette painting was going to be something completely different. And then Charlie XCX, like I was sketching out that initial one, and then Charlie XCX dropped the music video to Guess with Billie Eilish, and I immediately stopped what I was doing, took a screen grab, and painted that. So the first Zorn palette painting was the Charlie XCX portrait, and then I filmed the whole thing, and I was just about finished editing, and I lost all the footage because retrograde was retrograding. So this is my second Zorn palette painting, and this, you may know if you're a fan of the cult campy classic Showgirls. This is Gina Gershon in her iconic role as Cristal Connors. So Showgirls is a movie that came out in 1995, and it is notorious for being one of the most terrible movies ever made, but I wholeheartedly disagree. This movie has everything. It has Carl McLachlan, it has crazy overacting, it has so many incredible makeup looks, it has glitter, it has so much nudity, it has intrigue and mystery, and yeah, it's just, I love it. It has Las Vegas, it has so much dancing. It is incredible. If you know this movie, you probably also love this movie. Thoughts and prayers for being left-handed and getting paint in places where you don't want to get paint. If you know, you know. So let's go back to this movie. I adore Showgirls, and I'm making a whole zine about Showgirls, and that's going to be my September issue. So what I love to do when I'm watching a movie and I want to make art, or I'm inspired by something that I'm watching, is I'll often watch it with my phone out and just take photos of the screen. In another life, I would have been a stills photographer on film sets. I love the whole process of movie making. When I was a makeup artist, I used to work on short films. I love everything about movies and sets and being on set. And I really like the idea that there's particular films where every frame is like a work of art. And you might not think that Showgirls is that movie, but Showgirls is that movie. You should see the camera roll on my phone right now, because I'm trying to get reference pictures so I can make art for the zine, but every single scene is just so iconic. So now I have 3 spreads in my sketchbook of Showgirls sketches. I have this painting and 2 others on the go. I also have a whole bunch of illustrations that I've sketched out. Like, I'm making so much Showgirls art. I'm also making digital coloring pages. Like, it's just, I'm so inspired, and prepare to be sick of me painting Showgirls because I love it. I'm going to do a whole series of Elizabeth Berkley's makeup looks as Nomi Malone. It's so, so good. And if you're not familiar with Showgirls, you'll definitely see Chapel Roan and some of her looks, how she's taken inspiration from Showgirls, which is so exciting to me to see it live on in this way. So this painting here is Gina Gershon's character, Cristal Connors. And Cristal is the headliner of this really popular and elaborate, flashy Vegas show called Goddess. And she's sort of like the inspiration for Nomi, and also the competition for Nomi. So Nomi is our heroine, and we first see her hitchhiking to Vegas, where she wants to be a dancer, and she ends up in a strip club, and she sort of gets taken in by the kind, pure-hearted angel Molly. And Molly works as a costumer on the Goddess show. So drags Nomi along to watch the show one night, and Nomi just falls in love, and it's her dream then to become part of the Goddess cast. So that's sort of where these two get to meet, and they have a real intense love-hate relationship, and there's a lot of rivalry there. And if you've seen the movie All About Eve, that's Showgirls, basically. And I'll have so much more to talk about it in my zine, which comes out in September, and that gets sent out automatically to all my Ko-fi members. So your names are on the screen here. I adore you. I love making the zine. I love getting to share all my interests and the things that I'm passionate about. Showgirls is definitely one of them. And I can't wait to finish off all the artwork that I'm doing for this. I'm going to be doing a live stream this week. So this video is going out on Wednesday the 28th. And then on the Friday morning, I'll be doing a live stream. And yes, we're going to be doing another Showgirls painting. And I'm going to paint with the Zorn palette again, but I'm going to use watercolors. So I haven't done that. Like I said, this is my second Zorn palette painting, and this is in acrylics. But I thought I would test it out because I've got all the Zorn palette colors in watercolor. So I'm going to test it out and see how that goes and how it compares to this. So that should be pretty fun to experiment with. I found the Zorn palette made it really easy to paint portraits, with the skin tones seeming to just appear with every mixture that I make. I usually paint in my deep tones with a color such as blue, green, or purple, so this is a new way for me to paint, and I found it really suits my style. I'm really looking forward to painting some more portraits with the Zorn palette, even just as a starting point before adding in other shades like blues and things like that. Creating art with a limited palette is a great way to stretch yourself. And it's one of the reasons I love the art subscription boxes so much, because you have a small curated set of colors to use as opposed to a full set, which can feel overwhelming and gets you thinking in new ways. And I have some videos planned for the future using random color pickers and taking you through some of my favorite color harmony books. So with the Zorn palette, you really learn how to use values rather than color to build the features. So why is it called the Zorn palette? Well, Anders Zorn was a Swedish painter born in 1860, and he was not the first or the only painter to use this limited palette, but he did excel in portraits using these shades. He didn't exclusively use it either. He painted landscapes using vivid blues and greens as well. And there is a self-portrait that he painted in 1896, which perfectly depicts the 4 shades on his palette. So we know for sure that he, as Mr. Zorn, used the Zorn palette. I think the next Masters Limited palette I would like to try is Caravaggio's. His palette was white, lead tin yellow, yellow ochre, vermilion, red ochre, umber, and carbon black. So it's very similar to this with just a couple of tweaks. And I would love to see how it's different to this. So maybe I'll do another master study with Caravaggio's palette. I love his work so much, and I've been wanting to do another master study. And considering how much I love working with neon shades, I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed painting with this palette. It took some of the mystery out of mixing skin tones, and if this is something that you struggle with, I'd recommend trying this palette to see if it makes the process easier for you, because it definitely made it easier for me. And you can see here how that shade looks so green, like that leaves. And that's just black mixed with yellow ochre, because next to just the really warm tones behind it, it looks quite green. So The palette's really interesting with playing with tones and values in that way and making things appear slightly different maybe on your palette when they're pushed up against a different tone. Does that make sense? I'm going to link some videos below that maybe explain it a bit better than I do. Because I'm just here to talk about Cristal Connors and how much I love her. And look at her amazing beaded outfit and her big faux plaited hair. And it's just iconic. So if you haven't seen Showgirls, and this is kind of like a look that interests you, this will give you a little taste of what to expect from the costumes and the makeup and that sort of thing. So here is my little portrait of Cristal Connors, Gina Gershon as Cristal Connors. Stunning. And I only used 4 colors of paint to do this. So give it a shot and let me know if you do and what you thought. Surprising how many colors you can make just by mixing. So this was my initial Charlie XCX portrait using the same 4 colors as this one on the right. So there's so much versatility and you can see it's beautiful for skin tones. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this inspired you to experiment with the limited color palettes and seeing just exactly how many shades you can create and what you can do with it. Limited is only limited by the actual number of paint tubes, not limited at all by what you can actually create. I find it much more freeing actually to see what I can do within those few paint tubes. So like this video if you liked this video, and consider subscribing to my channel if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing. I'm doing a lot more painting at the moment, which is incredible. It is my passion and my one true love, and I look forward to sharing more of it with you. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.